Hey everyone, this is Gary Kayye, and I'm here to talk about a webinar that I'm doing coming up later this week. It's this Wednesday at 2:30 p.m. It's my annual crystal ball predictions for the whole year. So everything that I think is going to happen for 2020, I'm going to talk about on that webinar. And one of our sponsors of the webinar is LG, and the business development manager of LG at Almo is Todd Heberlein. Hey Todd, how are you?
I'm doing well, Gary. How are you?
Good. And you know, obviously in my crystal ball, I'll certainly mention LG because I'm not talking about products in the crystal ball every year, but I talk about technology and trends and impact. And certainly LG's part of that because they have products in every, with the exception of projectors, every display product category. They also have products in the UCC space, the digital signage space. So they cover the whole industry as a gamut. But one of the areas I do talk about is sort of the impact of moving from 4K and now up to 8K will have on the industry. What does LG think about 8K? I know that they've had limited exposure to 8K because there's not a lot of content available. There's not a lot going on there in 8K, but certainly everyone's talking about it. What does LG think?
So I think, LG, just like everybody else, are kind of waiting to see where the consumers drive it. As we know, in the commercial industry, we actually still get pushed from the commercial side. First thing that people do, they go out and see that 8K display. They're like, oh, that's so exciting, not really realizing that the content isn't quite there. So on the professional side, obviously 4K has taken and taken over, and it's kind of the standard now. Obviously, LG is just, they've started to develop their 8K displays and is looking to kind of see where that's going to be driving it on the pro side.
Yeah, I suspect they'll make a move in 2020. Obviously, if you know something, you're not allowed to say anything. But 2020, they'll make a move in 8K. I think by Infocom, we'll see. I think probably at ISE, we'll see some future demo stuff, and Infocom, they'll probably have something. And one of the things that LG has done the last couple of years at ISE and Infocom is they've driven all their content through the network throughout their booth, which is part of the AV over IP world. Certainly everybody's talking about AV over IP. It's one of the things I address. LG is a big player in the UC space. I'm going to talk about the UC space and my UCC space in my crystal ball webinar. That, like I said, it's next Wednesday at 2:30 p.m. I also wrote an article. If you want to read the article, my crystal ball predictions, you get it 24 hours before everyone else if you join the webinar. If you don't join the webinar, the article will come out Thursday afternoon, this coming Thursday. So the webinar is the 29th of February. The article will come out on the 30th of February. AV as a service. I'll talk about AV as a service, certainly with LG's built-in signage platform. They could be a player in AV as a service. And I know it's not an area they've necessarily talked about, but with their built-in signage platform that's connected via a network, they could deliver content, AV as a service content that way. What do you think, Todd?
That's one of the things I wanted you, if you could spend a little time to kind of describe, because I think AV as a service is confusing to a lot of people. What exactly is AV as a service? If you want to, are you going to touch on that in your crystal ball? Or
I talk about, okay. I give a little primer about what it is. I did a webinar on what it is. I'll do it again in 2020 because it evolves. But there's two parts to AV as a service. One part is content delivery and management. Right. And instead of selling a bunch of hardware, you're selling access to the content. Right. And the second part is managing systems and even leasing systems and managing systems remotely rather than as fixed products. So instead of a company buying hardware and using it and having it as a fixed asset, just like you lease a car, right? You buy a meeting room, you buy a classroom. Every 3 years you can upgrade it and you're paying a monthly fee on it. So it encompasses both sides of that. And I'll give you some statistics where that is in the industry. Speaking of which, I'll also talk about AV as a service and the impact of AV as a service at the E4 experience this year. The E4 experience this year's got a brand new topic. We'll do a webinar on that later. But you can go to e4experience.com to register for that event, and certainly I will talk about that at the E4s.
Yeah, there you go. So don't give any away.
I don't want to talk about it. In fact, I'm not going to talk about it anymore. I asked Todd to join me because Almo Pro AV delivers all of our webinar series. We have an exclusive agreement with them. LG is a sponsor. What's great about having LG as a sponsor, and for that matter, Almo, is that they have not said word one to me. They have not said, include me in your presentation, make sure that we're included. They don't do that. They recognize that this has to come straight from my brain, straight from my heart. Otherwise, I'm not interested in writing it. And this is truly what I believe is going to happen in 2020. I start out the article reviewing my 2019 predictions. So that therefore I can sort of keep myself grounded where I was right, where I was wrong. And I'll start out the webinar that way, and then we'll go into my 2020 predictions. So Todd, are you going to join me next Wednesday on the 29th?
I am going to join you. I want to see Nostradamus at work here and see how accurate it is going forward.
Far from it. Nobody will be talking about me after I gone. So far from that, but I do love doing this thing, and appreciate Almo's support. So to register, go to almoproav.com, click on education, click on webinars. You can register right then and there. Click on the link that I included in the description of this podcast. And of course, I hope that you'll see me and attend the E4 experience this year. We got a new location. I think we're going somewhere in California that's slightly new. So I'm excited about that.
We're going to Santa Clara at the beginning of March. We'll be up in Santa Clara. So come visit us there.
Yeah, that's our first stop, I think. So Todd, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you, Gary.
Thanks for listening. Everybody. Of course, check out AlmoProAV at almoproav.com. Check out Rave at ravepubs.com.